Welcome, everyone, to the first edition of the Loose Wheels podcast. I'm Andrew and Ethan. We are
Hello.
going
We're
to
just a
be,
couple of loose wheels.
yeah, we are a couple of loose wheels. We are going to be talking
Uh,
about racing, all forms. Got a nice show stacked today. Talking about a bunch of things
yeah,
racing. All
yeah.
right.
So this upcoming weekend, there's 8 hours of Bahrain. NASCAR's gonna be at Talladega this past weekend. We had Texas. We had Japanese Grand Prix. So we got a lot to talk about.
Also had a lot of news as well, but first, we'll talk about what happened on the racetrack last week, and we'll start. I'll start off talking about what NASCAR went down to Texas. It's a pretty uh, good race, I would say, especially for Texas, which is known in the NASCAR community to be one of the worst tracks. Personally, I've called it to be blown up, make it into a 2.67 mile super speedway, have it be the biggest track in NASCAR, beating Talladega's 2.6. But I will say it was a pretty good race, considering that you had a lot of incidents. You had two loose wheels. The first
Yeah,
loose wheels podcast, we have two loose wheels, Austin Dillon and Todd Gilliland in the 51, which is weird seeing him in the 51 because he's in the 38, 30 weekends of the year or whatever.
I'm still getting used to like Kyle Busch's new number. Like
Yeah,
that's crazy to me.
yeah. William Byron won in making it the 300th victory for Hendrick Motorsports. That's the best team in NASCAR, just reaches another milestone. It's amazing to see them back since the early 80s. Just I wasn't alive back then. Just be so dominant with guys like starting off Jeff Bodine, then Terry Labonte, and then you had Darrell Waltrip in there for a minute, and then going to guys like Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, and then have that be the lineup that they have now with Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson winning races, and now in championships. Now Byron, who you could argue is the championship favorite, but yeah,
Yeah.
Ryan Blaney was the 100th driver to make 300th start, which it's interesting that I mean, 100 guys have done six, not what would be not six, it would be, I'm not a math major, so this is my problem. Like nine, I think. That would be about 9 seasons. And I don't
Let's
think of Blaney
see.
as an old
He
guy.
made
He's
his
he
first race was 2014.
I mean, I still remember his rookie year, and that was when I was really first starting to get into the sport. I'm like, I'm gonna follow the rookies that year. These are gonna be my guys. Elliott, Blaney, Jones, they're still my guys. And I don't
Yeah.
think of them as being that old. So
Yeah.
it's amazing to see that he's doing so well. Bubba Wallace, he had a really good run today. That well, on Sunday, he
This
he looked like the card to beat, to be honest.
just going back to Blaney, his yeah, I mean, like you said, he really, you know, he is a veteran of the sport, I guess you would say now, but like he raced in 2014, he raced in 2015, but his first full season was only 2016. Not like 2016 just doesn't seem like that long ago.
No, it doesn't. I still remember him in that Wood Brothers 21.
Yeah. I
It,
mean,
I mean,
when I
winning
think
that
of
Pocono race.
yeah, when I think of Ryan Blaney, I mean, that was back when I was a little more of a hardcore follower of NASCAR specifically. But when I think of Ryan Blaney, that's still what I think of, the number 21.
Yeah. Yeah. Along with Bubba Wallace being really well, Kyle Larson was leading until he got on the inside of Wallace and just lost it. I don't,
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for him to climb out of that hole, if he wants any chance of winning the championship.
yeah, you don't see former champions making, I don't want to say simple mistakes because I mean, it's hard to drive a race car, but like just
Right.
mistakes that you don't see championship drivers make. That's, I mean, you also had Harvick ran well. Ricky Stenhouse got a top 10. Good for him. A lot of people had issues. Just another thing that I found interesting was the Gibbs Hamlin pit road incident. Uh, Gibbs wasn't really
Yeah.
running in the second outside line. He was really in the third from outside line, and he had already pitted, but so he was coming out. You generally see guys further up the road, and then Hamlin was doing the typical pit exit, and Gibbs was there. So I guess you
That
could.
was a really weird incident.
It was. I mean, something you don't see. That surprised me just seeing that. Yeah. Uh that's I would put the blame on Gibbs there, and but Hamlin's crew has to let him know, oh, Gibbs is coming out here in this lane. Be aware of it. And
Yeah,
I think Hamlin had a car in front of him as well.
bit of a risky pit exit.
Do you have anything else from the race? I can look at the playoff
Um,
standings right now.
yeah, let's just move on to the playoff standings, I think.
I'm scrolling through Wikipedia. Right now you have on the outside looking in, Bubba Wallace is 2 down. Uh, Tyler Reddick is 3 down. You have uh, Blaney is 11 out, and then Kyle Busch is 17 out. On on the on the bubble, you have Larson, who's 2 above Wallace. Uh, you have Brad Keselowski, who's 8 above Wallace, and then you have Chastain, who is 12 above Wallace, and then it's a big jump to Truex, who's in 5th, who's a good, not quite 20 points out of Wallace, but as we're gonna preview Talladega, that could all change.
Yeah, Talladega is a track where the big one, cliche, but like that can cause really anything to happen. It's hard to know, and that's kind of one of the draws of the track for sure.
All right, so moving on, you're the Formula One expert here, Ethan. So I'll let you
Yeah,
tackle Japan.
yeah. So going into Japan, Red Bull had a chance to clinch their eighth constructors championship, and they did do that. No, kind of you know, the theme of the season. No thanks to Sergio Perez. It was just the Max Verstappen show. Perez, he was involved in an incident on the first lap that kind of ruined his race. But after that, he was just making mistakes, running into the back of Kevin Magnussen. Eventually, Red Bull just retired the car, and then it was a really weird thing. They unretired the car to serve a penalty, so they wouldn't get so it wouldn't affect their next race in Qatar, and that's something you never see. It kind of set F1 Twitter ablaze that was even allowed, but it is in the rules that you can do that. Should it be? I mean, that's a different discussion, but they took advantage of that, and so Red Bull, they're maybe another team would have found that out too, but the fact that it just kind of shows Red Bull's always one step ahead.
Yeah.
They're always innovating and finding stuff. But back to the actual action on track, it wasn't it wasn't a boring race, but it wasn't the most exciting race. It was Max Verstappen dominance. The most interesting part of the race was probably the strategy battle between McLaren and Mercedes, Russell and Norris specifically. Norris ended up finishing second, whereas Russell, I don't have it right in front of me. I want to say he finished like
Ethan, did you mute your mic? I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, my
There.
AirPod just died because I'm a genius. But if you can hear me now, that's good. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know where you lost me,
Where did
but
Russell finish?
yeah. So George Russell, he finished further down in the points from Lando. The strategy didn't exactly work. He finished in seventh, picking up only 6 points. And so now him and Lando are actually both tied on equal points with
Wow.
45, or not 45, 115. I don't know where I got 45 from. They're both tied on 115. It's kind of crazy when you consider where McLaren started in the season. One of, if not the worst cars on the grid, all the way back up to now, on most weekends, the second best car. And it's allowed Lando to get a lot of podiums. And we got a first podium for Oscar Piastri, who finished third. A really nice drive by him. He was ahead of Lando on track due to the strategy. But again, because of the strategy, the team had Lando and Oscar swap because they were trying to cover off the Mercedes. And that's how we got the finishing order. There was a lot of discussion about, if there should be teammate swaps and stuff like that. But Lambda was supposed to be the first car. And even Oscar was saying how it was the right move. So I think that's kind of a nothing story. It's just, people trying to be mad about something. It was a really nice drive from both the McLaren drivers. And that's just the order that things ended up finishing. And that's basically that.
Yeah, like you said, it's always nice to see a new driver on the podium with Oscar Piastri. I mean, I like seeing someone fresh, seeing someone new, especially when you've had Max win all but 3 of the races this year.
Yeah.
And I saw on Instagram that it was officially a 40-minute pit stop for Perez. That's what it was listed under. So I think that beats whatever Valtteri Bottas had at Monaco that one year.
Yeah, that was like a couple minutes, I want to say.
Yeah.
Moving on. Continuing in the Formula One sphere, though, the FIA rejected 3 of 4 potential new teams that could come to F1. And that means that Andretti and Cadillac's dual bid is the sole remaining bidder.
I do think if of those 4 teams, you had Andretti, Cadillac, High Tech, whatever that
Carlin.
random one that came out of left field, and Carlin.
Oh yeah, the Asian company.
Yeah, I do feel that Andretti Cadillac has the most weight behind it, and the fact that it's an already established team competing in a top series. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, INDYCAR should be more recognized as a higher series than F2. I mean, no disrespect to F2, it's just a junior series. INDYCAR, it's the best of that type of racing. in the American
Yeah,
open wheel scene. And I think
open wheel, yeah.
that should have more weight behind it than F2. And the fact that Andretti has Cadillac behind him, huge part of GM, which is this huge car company, that's the obvious decision, I think.
Yeah,
And not to
I
mention
think,
Andretti's Andretti.
yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, High Tech and Carlin, to play devil's advocate a little bit here, they're very established, very well run junior teams. And, it makes sense to one day, if you are running those teams, to try to get into Formula One. But like you said, Andretti is just worlds ahead, especially due to the backing of Cadillac. You have the Cadillac backing, you have the name, the Andretti name, and the Cadillac name. And I think most importantly, the FIA doesn't want like another Haas situation to enter Formula One. You want a team where you feel better, or you're more confident that they will be able to, at the very least, impact the midfield instead of just being back markers like Haas.
Yeah. And I will say Carlin did run an IndyCar operation not too long ago. They had not much success. Connor Daly did get a pole in Iowa with them, which was surprising. Other than that, they really haven't done anything. I remember I want to say it was 2019 where they had 3 cars entered for the 500 in Pato Award, Charlie Kimball, and Max Chilton.
Mm-hmm.
We all know the great driver Pato Award is. Max Chilton, former F1 driver, and Charlie Kimball, who was a veteran IndyCar driver who wasn't bad by any means, but he wasn't the greatest, and he was the only one to make the 500. The other 2 were sent home. So Carlin runs a great F2 program. I wouldn't mind seeing Carlin or High Tech go into Formula One. But if we're only going to allow an 11th team, Andretti's just better. I'd like, call me crazy, I'd like to see a 40 car F1 grid.
I don't think that will ever happen.
I'd like to have as many cars on the racetrack as you can.
I don't think you can have 40 F1 cars on a track. I don't know how that would work.
I don't know.
I would like to see, because it's not even about the teams. There's so many drivers that are deserving of being in Formula One, but there's only so many F1 seats to go around. And so an 11th team makes sense, a 12th team makes sense for me, but we haven't seen that many cars on an F1 grid for quite some time, and I don't think we'll really ever see more than 12 teams, 24 cars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
there's been more than 24 in the past, but I don't think it's going to happen again.
Yeah, I'd like to see, like, De Vries probably should have gotten a shot his first year, or the year after he won a championship. Same with Piastri. Same with Felipe Drugovich.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like F2 is supposed to be the step right into F1, but there's not always options. There's not always seats. And if you win F2 and you can't return to F2 per the rules of that category, where do you go? It's supposed to be the road to F1. Well, the road to F1 is blocked. So, you go to IndyCar, you go to Formula E, you go wherever, but it's F2 in those situations, because F2, they do a good job of streamlining the road to F1. But
Yeah.
it's in those situations, it's hard to say that the category really does what it's set out to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you want to move on to talking about Liam Lawson, that's a good segue because I mean,
Yeah.
Liam Lawson deserves. He didn't win F2. He could still theoretically go drive F2. He's been driving Super Formula, but if Liam Lawson, who appears to be completely out of a seat for 2024, if he is without a seat, that's kind of a that's a crime almost.
Yeah. AlphaTauri retains Tsunoda and Ricardo for 24, Lawson to be the reserve driver, which, seeing his performances in that car, I do think he should be in a seat.
Yeah,
And then
I strongly feel that he should have Ricardo's. And I like Daniel Ricciardo,
Yeah.
but I strongly feel that he should have Ricardo's seat for 24.
I'm in agreement with you, but the rumor is Lawson agreed to sign a sim role this year, and he'll get a Red Bull or AlphaTauri seat in 25. I do think he won't be going to Red Bull because I don't remember the last time Red Bull put a complete rookie in one of their cars, because that's what AlphaTauri's been for them. They've had Fiat back in the day, start at Toro Rosso at that point, Sonoda, Gasly, Albon, among others, and Max Verstappen too. I'm forgetting the obvious, but yeah, Lawson should have been the choice to replace De Vries, not Ricardo. I also think De Vries shouldn't have been canned after the not even half year. That's my opinion there.
De Vries definitely didn't perform well, but to your point, cutting a driver after 10 races is rather harsh. I mean, it's Red Bull, so
Yeah.
You're not surprised. That's just the way they run things. But it definitely is harsh. De Vries, maybe he's not a good enough driver, but you look at what he's done in his career to this point, and he should have gotten the benefit of the doubt to finish off the year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you wanna can a driver after their rookie year, that's different. I still think that it takes more than 1 year to really see what a driver is made of in F1.
Mm-hmm.
So cutting De Vries, it is a hard pill to swallow for him, and it makes, I don't know if it makes the AlphaTauri drivers' lives harder. A little bit, I would imagine, because if you're Sonoda and you start off the season slow next year, this probably won't happen because he's been established at the team, but it's got to like creep into his mind if it were to happen that he would have a slow start, that maybe they would replace him with Lawson. I don't think it's good for the culture. I don't think it's good for anything really. But when De Vries did get replaced and Ricardo stepped in, Ricardo had a good first race in Hungary. He was fine in Spa, but then Lawson came in, and Lawson has, I'm kind of being a hypocrite right now, because after just 4 races, he's really shown that out of those 3, De Vries, Ricardo, and himself, he has been the best driver for AlphaTauri this year, and that's, I don't know. That's
yeah.
He deserves a seat.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And to add on to that, if I'm a Red Bull junior, like a Dennis Hauger or Uwas, or I don't know who else they have, nothing's coming to me at the moment. And you get an offer from AlphaTauri, or you get an offer, say, Sauber.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Sauber route because they're probably going to keep me for the full year. But at AlphaTauri, you might be canned after 10 races. So, but the good thing about AlphaTauri is you have the chance of getting the Red Bull seat, or Sauber. It's just Sauber. Like
Is the second Red Bull seat even something that people want to have? I mean, is the curse of the second Red Bull seat real? I don't know, because Max Verstappen is obviously an extremely talented driver.
yeah.
Sergio Perez is a good driver as well. He hasn't really driven like a good driver. Part of that is because the car is geared so much towards Max, and he has a fairly unique driving style. So I don't even know how beneficial it is to be like, obviously you want to race for the top teams. It's better to win a constructors championship as a second driver than to not. But I don't know if being the second Red Bull driver is really a smart career move. I mean, it is and it isn't, I guess.
Yeah, I will say the second Red Bull car, there's some merit to that curse, and because it takes drivers who have performed better in other places and made them look worse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could do that, but I think it hurts your stock because you look at Sergio Perez when he got dropped by Force India, or I guess it was Racing Point at that point. He looked like this is a top 10 driver who might be without a seat. He got signed to Red Bull, and since then, some people might say he's not a top 10 driver anymore in the sport.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it hurts. It hurts your stock as a driver.
Yeah, you're really put underneath a microscope, and it's hard to live up to Max Verstappen. Rewinding a little bit to that Lawson agreement, I don't like, yes, sim driver, good, test reserve driver, yeah. But the agreement that he's gonna be in a seat for 25, it just kind of seems like a handshake deal. I don't think it would be anything more than that. I don't think they didn't like sign him to a pre-contract agreement for 25. And I don't really like Liam banking on that handshake deal. I don't know what his current contract as like a Red Bull Junior driver looks like, but I wonder if he kind of pulls an Oscar Piastri and goes somewhere else. I think that Williams, my opinion on Logan Sargent and Williams has kind of changed. At first, I thought they would, let him go at least 2 seasons because he has been their young driver that they've promoted through their academy into Formula One. And I do think he's a talented driver, but the way he's performed this year hasn't been great, to say the very least. To put it mildly, he hasn't been great. And like I've said, I think it is harsh to cut a driver after just 1 season. But I wonder if Williams and Liam Lawson agree to an actual paper contract, whether that be a paper contract for 25 or 24, if Lawson's contract lines up. I don't know. That's a lot of speculation, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought of that. And just going off of that, I mean, I don't I mean, it surprised me the tweet that Oscar sent out in the McLaren thing, or I guess he was for Alpine. The Alpine has released a statement without my agreement. That surprised me in that, oh, he must have something better. Like,
Yeah,
then I
that's
thought,
true.
what's
Austin went to
better?
Williams. That's kind of moving backwards.
Yeah. I don't really have anything much else to say on this.
No, we could move on to IndyCar. There was news
Well, we
dropping
have
that.
the McLaren extending Piastri through 26.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, McLaren has, like you said, extended Oscar Piastri through 2026. And he has been really impressive as a rookie. As the car has gotten better this year, he's gotten better. He has really shown himself as a rookie, which is very impressive. It makes sense for both sides to sign this contract. There probably isn't a better seat for Piastri to go to anytime soon. And with McLaren seemingly on the up and up, this contract makes a lot of sense for both sides. McLaren, they're now locking in their driver lineup. They want Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri to carry them through this process back into a team that hopes to challenge Red Bull, which is kind of crazy to say, but at the same time, you look at it and they're probably the closest to Red Bull. That's still very far away, but they're probably the closest to Red Bull.
I wouldn't necessarily go that far in saying they're the closest to Red Bull. They are, I mean, there's still Ferrari and Mercedes in that group as well. But the thing that McLaren that concerns me is for the last couple of years, they always start out really slow.
Yeah.
And then they turn it up at the end of the year, 23 and 22. Will it be the same in 24? And Piastri through 2026 is surprising. Grant, he's still a rookie, so
yeah,
I'd figure 25, but that's 3 more years. So they're locking in the future, saying we don't want Alex Palou, we don't want Pato O'Ward, we don't want even. I never bought into this Colton Herta. I mean, we don't want any of those guys, or this is who we want, so
yeah. It's a big statement because in motorsports, an extension of that length it's definitely noteworthy,
especially for a rookie.
Stands out. Yeah, especially for a rookie.
IndyCar released their schedule. Milwaukee in, Texas out, as well as the second IMS road course race. I do like the Milwaukee doubleheader. I think that's something that needed to come back. I do like it at the expense of the IMS road course. I don't need 2 races at the IMS road course. I like the collaboration with NASCAR, but I don't feel like IndyCar should have had to play second fiddle to NASCAR. That seemed like wrong to me when you have IndyCar, then the Xfinity Series. I mean, I'm a NASCAR guy. I don't know what I am primarily anymore, but I don't think IndyCar should have been in that position. So I get why they dropped it. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised it lasted this long. I'm not shocked by this. As well as Texas citing a date clash and being dropped in the 2024 IndyCar schedule, likely with NASCAR, which we talked about earlier. I do feel about NASCAR not being the best track for, or in Texas not being the best track for NASCAR. I do think it's a great track for IndyCar. The racing was great there in every reconfiguration. And that's my take on that part of the schedule.
Yeah. Like you said, I think that, there doesn't need to be two races at the Indy road course. Um, I I don't know too much about the Milwaukee track and the Texas track, but I do have an opinion on what you said about IndyCar. I agree with you. They don't really need to play second fiddle to NASCAR. It's a bit of a puzzling move for the series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some other things, the Thermal Club All-Star Challenge. I do like it. I don't think the Thermal Club should, it doesn't have the seating capacity to be a full points race. So if you want to have a race there, I'm all for it. At that point, you have I'm trying to fit Monterey Laguna Seca. That's now in the middle of summer, which I don't know how hot it is there in the middle of summer. That could be interesting.
I'm from that. It's a different climate. I'm about an hour away, but it can get kind of hot over there for sure.
That's something I'll have my eye on. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 9 a.m. race or like a 4 p.m. race. I know there's noise restrictions there. And then there's now a month break for the Olympics for NBC. I don't love it, but if it's something that we have to do with every 4 years, it's fine. You have Gateway, Portland, and I do find it surprising that it's a double header at Milwaukee. I would have preferred to keep one race there and one race in Texas, but I get it. It kind of saves costs. You don't have to have teams going to two places on 2 weekends. I don't mind double headers. I just wish I would rather have an 18 race schedule than I would have liked to have Texas on some way. I don't.
Yeah.
And then Nashville at the end. We know they're redoing Nashville, the configuration, so it'll be interesting to see its basically debut on the championship race. I don't love that. I don't know. I haven't. Well, I don't think there's really anything official yet, but I think the last race at Nashville proved it doesn't have to be it isn't a crash race. I do think all the races there have been good, but you have to change it with the new stadium and for the Titans. And then I've also seen, I think the number of Peacock races went from 1 to 2, which is absolutely terrible. There's one thing I could change about IndyCar. Take races off of Peacock. I don't think you should have to be having 2 races on a streaming service that no one uses. It's a ratings killer. This is frustrating to me. And
then I'll give you my Peacock subscription for those races, Andrew, because I'm one of 3 people in the world that has a Peacock subscription. So I got you.
Thank you.
But I totally agree with you. It just, I wonder how much money, I wonder what they think the value of putting races on Peacock is, because I don't think it's gonna help anyone out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And then additionally, I think the number of races on USA also doubled from 3 to 6, which again, like the only logical, and I'm not even going to call this valid reason
Mhm.
to move races there is you get more money from, if say, hey, NBC says, we'd rather have you on USA and we'll give you more money so we can put you there. I would,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's gonna less advertising for sponsors. Because if I put a race on USA, casual fans not going to tune into USA. Like a sports fan, there's no other sports there besides IndyCar, NASCAR, and same thing with Peacock. I mean, you'll get casual fans on NBC because everyone who has a TV has NBC.
Has NBC. Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, if NBC can't put all the races on NBC, well, let's have split coverage between that and CW, where they're actually everyone has CW. CW had 100 Days to Indy last year, which the docuseries, which they have Live Golf. They're going to have the Xfinity in 2025. They're starting to build a sports network. Why not take the 8 races that NBC doesn't want, move it over there? I mean, that's something I wouldn't mind seeing.
Yeah, that would be smart.
Mm.
You want to move on?
Yeah.
Okay,
Recently,
so we got Oliver Askew, and Christian Rasmussen. How do you say his
Rasmussen,
name?
they
Okay.
tested for Ed Carpenter yesterday, and
Yeah.
and what I saw, it looks like Rasmussen really impressed. Well, both of them did well from what I heard, but
Yeah.
Rasmussen really clicked. We know Ryan Hunter-Reay is not coming back, and for that's honestly a right call. I don't think Ryan Hunter-Reay is a decent. I don't think I'd rather have someone that, I mean, Ryan Hunter-Reay is a bit. We know what Ryan Hunter-Reay is. He's a solid driver, but I want someone with more upside, and that's what I think Ed Carpenter wants.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing with Daly.
And
I think they must have thought Daly wasn't performing to where he should have been, and that's why they got rid of him. I'd like to see Rasmussen in the car. That would be my first choice because he won Indy Lights.
Yeah, reigning Indy Light champ.
Yeah. And then I will say Oliver Askew kind of got screwed over by Arrow McLaren SP or whatever they're called now.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
I would like to see him somewhere. I do think he deserves a shot. He's been one of the numerous drivers I've kind of gotten screwed by McLaren because his replacement in that car was Felix Rosenqvist, who kind of was. I mean, that his ending with McLaren could have gone worse in IndyCar, but it didn't, and it still wasn't great either. I don't think Rosenqvist was really ever welcome there, and I do think he is a top 10 driver in IndyCar. Just McLaren wasn't treating him.
Underrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the skew, I mean, we're talking about Rasmussen right now. With he has so much upside. He's a reigning Indy Lights champ. Askew won that series in 2019, and when he got to McLaren, and in only his 5th race, he was on the podium, and that was an up and down season. If I'm remembering correctly, he got injured.
Yeah,
a concussion. I want to say
in Indy 500. Yeah.
Yeah. He 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 got screwed over. He got replaced. it's Askew is definitely a driver that could have another opportunity. He did have one race with Ed Carpenter in 2021.
Yeah, when he was super
Finished.
subbing for every other team, it felt like.
Yeah, that was that was subbing for McLaren out Detroit, next round subbing for Ed Carpenter, and then a couple of rounds later finishing off the season with the Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan. Um, he's a guy who I would probably take the younger, um, newer champ over him, but Askew deserves another shot.
Yeah, he beat, well, pretty much all these guys I'm about to mention that were in their rookie years, including Askew. Askew beat Rinus VK, uh, I'm looking, David Malukas, and
Mm-hmm.
Dalton Kellett, who all went to INDYCAR and had times longer than Askew in there. So he has the talent.
Yeah,
But I do think he deserve there isn't any wrong pick of those two. I think either of those two, you'll get really solid results.
yeah,
And I think in the short term, Askew will be better. He's been in the car before.
probably. Yeah,
But long term, I do think Rasmussen has the higher upside. And I don't know, maybe you'll see Rasmussen at Penske one day when Will Power retires. I don't know.
maybe. Um, there's been a rumor going around that Sebastian Vettel, four-time Formula One champion, could possibly come back and join Porsche's Le Mans project next year. What
Yeah.
do we think of that?
Well, I saw a headline today that there has been talks, and it is with
Yeah.
Jota, the privateer team. But of all the privateer teams, Jota, the Proton, and JDC Miller and IMSA, I do think Jota is the best of those three, and I do think Jota has a better shot at winning Le Mans than Peugeot. I'd say they're about even with Cadillac. I mean, there's Toyota, Ferrari, Porsche, Cadillac, and then maybe the Jota Porsche. That's how I'd rank them right now. And then you'll have BMW and Alpine and Lambo joining next year, but who knows where they might fall. But
Yeah.
I would like to see Seb come back. I do know Jota wants to be two full-time cars, and I do think the WEC is only 8 or 9 weekends next year. So I could see Vettel even going full-time in that. I know they've talked to Kubica, and I do think Button's been thrown around.
Kubica.
Yeah, Kubica. And then I think I've seen Kimi Räikkönen's name thrown as a rumor, but I do think they'll bring at least one current sports car driver into that project, whether it be Le Mans or full time. I would like to see Seb back in a race car. I don't think he'll be back in Formula One with its growing schedule. He's an older guy. He doesn't want to do 20 plus weekends here. I could see him doing 10.
Yeah. And I think out of all those guys, even though the World Endurance Championship, less weekends and all that, I think Raikkonen, he's pretty much done. We'll see him like maybe every now and then. But if it's a full-time driver, even if it's only 10 weekends, I do think that Seb is the most likely. He kind of seems like he still has that itch he was actually at the Japanese Grand Prix, setting up B hotels at Suzuka Circuit. Um, and just from like interviews and stuff, it kind of it seemed like he would get behind the wheel of a car again, and that's probably not going to be a Formula One car, but I could see him. I could definitely see him racing in Le Mans, and especially for uh, driving a Porsche, it makes sense. German driver driving a German car, it
Yeah.
it makes sense to me.
I think everyone would love to see Seb back behind the wheel.
Yeah,
Speaking
Seb's
of,
kind of just one of those guys that everyone loves
yeah,
nowadays.
yeah, most definitely. If you would have said that 10 years ago, you'd have some eyebrows raised.
Yeah,
But
that's why I had to add the nowadays.
yeah,
But yeah.
speaking about luck, there's the 8 hours of Bahrain, the championship race is this week. I'm just gonna look at the standings here. Corvette has already won in GTE, LMGTE AM. I don't know why they call it. Just call it GTE. Make it easier on ourselves. But LMP2, it's still wide open. I mean, the WRT team has a lead over Inter Europol United. They still have a chance. I believe it's the 41. Yeah, it's the 41 LMP2 team over and then the Inter Europol and then the 22 United. Those two have outside chances. Something has to go very wrong for WRT. They would have to finish. There's 11 LMP2 cars. They would have to finish. Let me do some math here. That's 33-point lead. They would have to finish no higher than ninth. Actually, no higher than eighth. And the either Inter Europol or United would have to win to get the championship. So long odds there. And same thing for Hypercar. It's a little bit closer. And because I'm doing some math here, 39 points puts them at 57, I think. 57. So that would mean they would need 24. Yeah, a first or second clinches the number 8 Toyota over the number 7 Toyota. The 51 and the 50 Ferrari still have outside chances. A lot would have to go their way, but it's going to be one of the two Toyotas, likely the number 8. That's who I'm picking. I don't know about you, Ethan, but I do think the 8 team's going to be the champion here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They've had a really nice season, really consistent season. Um, the the retirement for the other team
And Le Mans
kind of screwed them up
yeah.
because they've had more highs this season. Actually, if that team wins in Bahrain and the other team finishes second, would they still walk away with the championship? They would, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. The
Yeah,
8 team would
so
win when they win it
I
if they
would,
get second.
yeah, so I would pick the 8 team to win the championship, but I do think that the 7 team will win the race because they've been, besides Portugal, every race that they finished, they won. They've been extremely dominant this year. And, you know, when you only have, how many races have they had this year? 1, 2, 3, 4,
6 already.
when you only have, yeah, you have a handful of races, a retirement like that can really mess up your season. And they've been the more dominant team, but they won't walk out with a championship most likely.
Yeah.
It'll probably be a 1-2 for Toyota either way.
Yeah, they've been a 1-2 in 3 of the 6 races so far.
Yeah.
And they've had a car on either the top or second step in the podium in the other 3 races. So there's no reason to believe why that would change. It would have to be some freak accident. Because I don't think Toyota is going to be outright slow in Bahrain. I just don't see that happening. And then I will say as well,
it's unlikely.
I'm scrolling back up because Hertz, well, Toyota's clinched the hypercar manufacturer championship, and Hertz Team Jota has won the privateer championship by just showing up because they haven't had much competition until Italy when Proton showed up. But that's going to be interesting to follow next year. Battle between Proton and Hertz, Team Jota, and a couple others, hopefully privateers. I'd like to see there's a possible Peugeot team that's been rumored. I don't see that happening. I don't know if technically the WRT team's privateer or not. So I don't know those areas real well. But that would be an interesting battle between those 2 teams.
Yeah. Moving on to LMP2.
Yeah.
Team WRT.
I haven't made my pick yet. You said the 7.
Oh, I thought you had made your pick.
I will say you're gonna go the 7. I'll take the 8.
Yeah.
Because
that's fair.
Whatever Toyota, there's gonna be a Toyota, and it's gonna be.
Yeah.
If you take that one, I'm gonna take the other one to be different.
That's fair. I gotta play the odds, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For LMP2, I mean, really, I don't know if you're gonna disagree with me here, because really the only answer is Team WRT with they're far ahead of any competition. They haven't been as outright dominant as Toyota in the hypercar category, but what they have been is extremely consistent. Their worst finish is 4th this year.
Yeah, hard to get bet against them. I will.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the 22 United with Hansen, Lubin, and Albuquerque. Those are 3 great drivers. And I do believe their races have been better when they have had Albuquerque and as the 3rd driver when he's not doing IMSA. So I think they have a good shot.
Yeah, not the worst pick for sure. Yeah, definitely a possibility. Moving on to the final category that we're going to be talking about for WEC at least. I'll let you go first this time.
Yeah, I'll take the obvious pick. It's a layup. Corvette Racing. Ben Keating is the best bronze driver there is. If you disagree, you're wrong. I don't want to be like that, but he's really, really, really good at what he does. So I do think he's been fast all year. I don't see anything to change. I'll take the 33 Corvette.
Yeah. Now it's my time to be different, I suppose. There really isn't a good second option. I'm gonna go with AF Corsa or Corse, however you want to pronounce it. The team that won last week in Fuji. That team won at Bahrain a few years back. They won last week. I don't know. winning last week plus winning at the next track a few years back, maybe that equals another one. I don't know. But if we're being realistic, it is going to be Corvette racing. But I'll have a different official pick.
Okay. And now we're gonna talk about Talladega.
Yeah.
Truck Series. I do believe. Let me pull this up. I do think it's the second race in the round. I don't know if that's right. Wikipedia. It is the second race of the round. I should have trusted myself. You have Corey Heim has won his way in to the championship round. You have right now 8 points back is both Nick Sanchez and Ty Majeski. Actually, that's not right. That is 22 points back. No, that's not right. Yeah, it is. 22 points back is Sanchez and Majeski. And then you have 21 points back is Ben Rhodes, the 22 champion. And then 14 back is Zane Smith, the 21 champion. You have Enfinger 14 ahead of Smith. You have Hocevar, who's had a nice breakout year, 18 ahead. And then you have Christian Eckes, 29 points ahead of Smith. So it's Talladega. Anything can happen at these races, and anything will. You have the big one. You have photo finishes. The last it's 5 races. Last 5 races have been the leader leads 1 lap, the last lap. So I will, and it was, I watched this race last year. It was I'm having a blank right now. It's love Wikipedia's existence. It was actually, I didn't watch the race last year. It was Matt DiBenedetto winning last year. He was out of the playoffs. Tate Fogelman winning out of the playoffs. Rafael Lessard winning out of the playoffs. Spencer Boyd winning out of the playoffs. Timothy Peters winning out of the playoffs. Those are the 5 guys who led the last lap. And if you go back to 2017, it's Parker Kligerman who was out of the playoffs. I do think, Grant Enfinger was the last driver to win in the playoffs. So I do think it's going to be someone out of the playoffs. And I'm going to go with a good super speedway racer. I arguably should have won last year. I'm going to go out on a limb and pick Brett Holmes as my pick.
You heard it here first. For my pick, I mean, wow, you're really trying to test my NASCAR knowledge here, Andrew. Here's my outsider thought process. I saw that recently the Chevys have done very well in the Truck Series at Talladega. I saw that Christian Eckes, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Drive Eckes, okay. There's a third option. Christian Eckes. I saw that he drives a Chevy, and he's in second place in the standings. Therefore, he's my pick. I have no thought process behind that, but I'm counting on Mr. Eckes to make me look smart.
All right. And then finally, for the Cup Series, I did run through the playoffs earlier. I'll just go at the bubble again. Wallace 2 down, Reddick 3 down, 11 down is Blaney, and then Bush is 17 down. Lawson 2 up, Keselowski 8 up, and 12 up is Chastain. And then way ahead is Busher, Bell, and Truex. They're all about 20 points up. And then a further, about not quite 40 points up is Denny Hamlin. So with Talladega, anything can happen and anything will happen, as I said earlier. But there's gonna be a lot of the bottom 4 guys. I'll look for them to get stage points. Well, look for all the guys to get stage points that aren't locked in, except for Hamlin. I do think Hamlin's going to play it more conservatively, but I'm going to take one of those guys that's going to be aggressive, because you got to be aggressive to win these races. I'm going to take Ryan Blaney. He's won here a couple times back in the past, so I'll take him again.
Yeah, okay, that's a good pick. I'm taking another driver who is going to try and do something, I think, and Kyle Larson, who needs. I think he's going to want to bounce back in a big way. And he hasn't won at Talladega before, but it's a crazy race. Anything can happen. I think that he's gonna go for it, and I don't know, kind of just vibes, but I think that Larson is gonna. I think he's gonna win. He's my pick.
All right, so this is how the points are going to go, so people at home can follow along with us. And I don't think Ethan knows this yet, but this is how I think it should go. 1 point. Well, if your driver doesn't win and beats the other driver, 1 point.
Okay.
You get 5 points if your driver wins.
Okay.
And so, are we
doing points if like top 3, like 4 points if you finish second, 3 points if you finish third.
I think all or nothing. Are you in agreement?
All or nothing?
Do you think it should be different?
Sure.
All right, so
let's do all or nothing.
We'll see who is the smarter one this season. Right now, we're all tied 0-0.
You.
Hey, well, there's going to be a lot of Formula One races here.
Yeah, get a F1 back in here, and then, well, INDYCAR ended, but next INDYCAR season, maybe I can put up a fight.
Oh, we'll see.
Yeah,
all right,
we'll see.
So that was the first episode of the Loose Wheels podcast. You made it this far. Thank you for listening. Do you have anything else to say, Ethan?
No, just thank you for listening, like you said, and make sure to tune in again.
Yeah, see you next Wednesday when the next episode drops. Goodbye.